Hey, this is 84 square feet. That's right. For those of you who have been patient, thank you. For those of you who don't even know what I'm sitting here doing, I am going to be doing a little bit of an inside deep dive onto the time that I spent while I was in solitary confinement. I did 5 years in prison between 2010 and 2015, and during that time I was sentenced to 2 years in the hole. We're going to get to why here a little bit later. So last year I started this little project, and I thought it was just going to be a couple questions about solitary confinement, and I was going to do this quick little video. But when I put it out on Facebook, I literally got hundreds of questions, and I appreciate that, and it overwhelmed me a little bit, and that's part of the reason why this project is now here almost a year later. So for those of you who have been patiently waiting for me to answer some of these questions, this is your time. I'm going to be doing some of that. For those of you who have questions about my time in solitary confinement, please either submit those in the comments or go to the website. It's 84squarefeet.com. I have a contact form set up there where you can put in questions that you may have to be considered for answering live on something just like this. The other cool thing that I realized as I was digging into this whole documentary thing is my mom saved every single letter that I wrote to her. Now, I did my solitary time was around 2011 to 2013. So I have every single letter that I wrote during that time that really went deep into my mindset, some of the things that were going on at the prison, good things, bad things, and just things, just kind of what daily life is like when you're in solitary confinement. I want to be very clear here. My intent in doing this is not to shame the prison system or to shame some CEO who may have acted crazy towards me or shame anybody, really. There are some shameful things I'm going to speak about, but my intent is not to shame any of those people. Can we do better? I think so. And I think that's where part of this is rooted in, is sharing part of my story and how I got through a crazy situation like that, but also bringing some light to the whole issue of solitary confinement. And is it a practice that we should still be using? Is it something that's really beneficial? Is it working? So these are all questions that I hope to get into, and I appreciate and actually welcome your feedback. So if you have thoughts on this, if you have a personal story, if you have anything that might be related to this or just questions in general, I'd be more than happy to check them out. But for now, we're going to start out real quick with some letters. I just wanted to dive real quick into the first set of letters that I wrote while I was in solitary confinement. And if you look, I'm going to zoom in here on this first letter. You're going to be able to see it looks like just conducting business, because that's really what it was. It was me sitting down when I first got there and realizing I need to get some of my magazine subscriptions changed. I mean, this is really glamorous stuff here. So I had a USA Today, I had a Wired magazine because I've always been a geek, Men's Journal, because I got to stay up on the latest men's trend. Field and Stream because, I like looking at fields and streams. I mean, it was better than this stark white box that I was in. I mean, the picture that's on the website at 84squarefeet.com is the picture of my exact cell. I mean, I look at that picture and it brings me right back to that. My cell was 6 feet wide by 14 feet long, and that's where I spent 23 hours plus sometimes a day for 2 years. Muscle and fitness because, I had to stay buff. I mean, sun's out, guns out, right? And then we had Men's Fitness and then a Reader's Digest because in those times when there's really nothing to do, I mean, I didn't have a TV, didn't have a radio for the first almost 6 months. So Reader's Digest, it gets you through some of those tough times. Ely, Nevada. I'm going to put a picture here of the state of Nevada, and I'm going to zoom into where Ely is so you can see just how out in the middle of absolute nowhere Ely, Nevada is. I don't know where I saw this little fun fact, but I did see that Ely, Nevada is one of the coldest places in the United States. And while I was there for that 2 years, I can definitely attest to that. And I do have a funny story about one of my very cold moments when I first got there to Ely. So that'll be coming up in another letter here very, very soon. But I just wanted to touch real quick on a couple things on this letter. I just put in there that my handwriting is funny on the very bottom here because they don't allow us to have the outside barrel of the pen, just the flimsy inside. Can you imagine writing a whole letter with just I got big hands. Come on now. How am I supposed to write a letter with this little tiny thing? I mean, it was all over the place. No good. I think I ended up wrapping it up in a bunch of toilet paper and then wetting it and then wrapping it again. You let the toilet paper get hard, and now you got a barrel of a pen. So that's how you get inventive while you're in solitary confinement. You just make the best of what you got. And to close this one out for this last letter here, I'm going to zoom in on one of the last paragraphs that I wrote to my mom. I said, I promise to write more this weekend. Please keep me in your prayers, as this is really the bottom of the barrel. I will explain more in a coming letter. Okay, here we're going to read the second letter. Now, this wasn't an actual, bunch of different envelopes. I actually stuffed 3 letters inside of one envelope because they wouldn't let my mail go out the first day. So it's like I had a whole weekend and they wouldn't come pick up my mail. So I figured I'd shove as many letters as I could inside of one envelope. Being frugal. I mean, my Dutch heritage really showing through here. Here's the second letter, though, and I'll zoom in so you can see some of this. Well, my letter didn't go out yesterday because they are observing what's called Nevada Day, which is a holiday, so I figured I'd add to it and save a stamp. I'm going to explain how things are where I'm at, but before I do, let me say that I'm not complaining, because it may sound like it. The night before I got moved, they had me pack up everything for transport, so I got to sleep on a mat with no sheets or blankets, just my boxers and a t-shirt. Then I get taken out just before breakfast time to go up and wait in a holding cell for about 3 hours with no food. I got strip searched twice. I mean, they didn't even give me anything to eat. I'm not hiding anything anywhere. I got strip searched twice and then given 2 sack lunches as some type of consolation prize. Each one had 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and 2 cookies and a wilted piece of celery, as these were the leftover lunches from the day before. Then we loaded onto a prison transport bus with our feet shackled as well as our hands cuffed with belly chains on. So literally, there are feet shackle irons on around your legs. And then you have a belly chain that goes around your waist. And then on the belly chain, there's these 2 little extensions that go off for your hands. So your hands really, to eat something, you have to shimmy the belly chain up, and you're it's like you're almost like a T-Rex almost, you're little short hands, you got celery, you're putting it up like that. So, but that's the whole, and that's transport. And that's really anytime, minus the belly chains, anytime I moved anywhere in Ely, Nevada, or in solitary confinement, it was always leg chains and also handcuffed. So here we go. So we loaded onto the prison transport bus, feet shackled as well as our hands cuffed with belly chains. It appeared at first that there was going to be ample room on the bus until we made a stop at the prison down the street and picked up 12 more guys. I looked for the skinniest guy and politely made room on my seat as he neared, as the seats on the bus were designed really only for function, definitely not comfort. Many smells, including old food from the last prisoners on the floor, bad breath, lots of bad breath, body odor, and of course, the gas that eating prison food gives you. The windows on the bus were so high up that you had to stand up to see out, which really didn't bother me, but it really did give 2 guys that were there near me motion sickness, so they were constantly shuffling as quickly as they could with those ankle chains on. to get to that open toilet area in the back of the bus. Now, this is like a Greyhound bus that's been super modified. In the front part of the bus, they have some segregation cells for like people that decide that all they want to do is spit at people or something. The people that needed to be locked away, they had them sitting in like the front area of the bus. They had like some special holding cages or whatever. And then you like really just walked back and there were just these very hard seats. and then in the back of the bus, there was a toilet, but it wasn't really a toilet. It was just kind of a hole that was in the floor that went to something. And I mean, they didn't take your belly chains off. They didn't take the leg chains off. This is like, have at it. Good luck. Imagine throwing up with handcuffs on. Yeah. So these guys that were having motion sickness, yeah, they were puking in the back there. The funny part was both of these guys are big bad gangster type dudes who were getting laughed at by all of their friends for being so wimpy and not being able to handle the ride. This went on for hours. We had to drop a few guys off at another prison camp, and after about 6 hours on the bus, we arrived in Ely around 3 p.m. There were two groups of people once we got there to Ely. Those who were going to be staying the night, and then those who were getting back on the bus the next day to go various prisons or camps that were up there in northern Nevada. The group staying the night got processed in first, as the remainder of us had to wait in a long corridor with the bay door open to the outside with our hands against the wall and our nose touching the concrete wall in front of us. And seriously, all I could think about was, when is the last time they cleaned this wall? How many noses have been on this wall? Yeah, the things that you think about, right? Here I am, I'm standing there, trying to figure out how many noses have been on the wall here. And I figured that was probably not the right time to make a little smart comment. So, at least I do have the wherewithal to not do that. So after standing like that on the wall for about an hour and a half, that's right, it's not just a quick little thing. Nothing happens fast in prison. So we were then uncuffed and had to get strip searched in this open air corridor. And maybe it was 40 degrees out there at that point. After getting dressed, they drop a laundry bag next to me with sheets, a blanket, and a pillow, and my dinner. You guessed it, another sack lunch. At least it wasn't peanut butter and jelly sandwiches this time. Then we had more waiting on the wall in the same spot for about another hour. Prison policy here for any inmate movement is as follows. 2 guards come to get you, and you must face away from them so that they handcuff you behind the back. Next, you must get on your knees as one keeps his hand on your shoulder, and then the other one puts the leg irons on you. You must stay looking straight ahead the whole time, as any looking around is considered an act of aggression. Then you get up slowly and are escorted with a CO at each side of you, holding your arm like you are being escorted somewhere truly grand. So I'm being escorted to my new cell, toting my laundry bag of goodies, and I'm told it may take a week or so for me to get my property, including books, clothes, and my other electronics. I'm led to my cell, where upon entering, I have to immediately kneel in order to have the leg irons removed, and then wait for the door to shut before standing up, and then they open a slot in the door for me to push my hands out to have the handcuffs removed that were behind my back. There are 2 metal bunks and no mattresses, so I quickly ask, and I'm told it'll be here later when they get time to drop it off, along with my orange jumpsuit. They made me give them the pants and the shirt that I was wearing, so here I am in this cold cell, in my boxers, socks, and a tank top and shoes, and I'm looking at this sack lunch thinking, I will not eat a sandwich for a long time once I'm released. After waiting for my mattress for about an hour or so, I finally realized I was probably pretty low on the priority list, so I folded both sheets in half on top of each other, set my pillow up and wrapped up in the blanket, and then laid down as I was thoroughly exhausted from the past 24 hours. The cell is maybe 7 feet wide and 12 feet long, and now I know the true dimensions were 6 feet by 14. That's, thus the 84 square feet. The cell is maybe 7 by 12 with the toilet by the door and the desk at the other end. I'll zoom in here on the little drawing that I put in there for my mom. Later that evening, they did come with my mattress, which was a good thing. I quickly made my bed and went right back to sleep. Without any real clothing, it was too cold to do much else besides lay in bed wrapped up in the blanket. The next afternoon, they gave me my jumpsuit and they brought me up to the property room to get my property. Hallelujah. I was aware that there were items that I owned from high desert that were not going to be allowed here, but there were a few that I didn't know too. I had to throw away my hairbrush, my mouthwash, a stick of deodorant, 2 extensions for my headphones, 10 AA batteries, and a couple of books that I got from the chaplain, and a bunch of my magazines that I didn't have either my mailing label on or my name or my ID number. They're real big on that. Like if you have somebody else's property, like everything has your name and your ID number on it. Everything. I mean, electronics, all your mail, everything. So if you get caught without something like that, they have immediate reason and right to throw it away. They also took some vitamins because I tore the label off the bottle, and a cross that someone made for me that I thought was pretty cool. I am currently housed in a disciplinary segregation unit, which is kind of the bottom of the barrel. I have to get approval from the AWO to get my CD player, as you have to be at least 60 days from your last write-up to get your electronics, which I was. So I submitted that kite and I'm ready to get the ball rolling on that. Remember, I'm in a room that's about as big as your closet. I got a little bed. I don't have any of my property. There's no electronics. There's no TV. So just the thought or even the hope of getting a CD player, something to listen to, was something that I just held on to pretty tight. They let me at least have my beard trimmers, which was a blessing. The good news is I have some stamps, but due to the lockdown nature of this unit, I can't have someone order things that I need, as there would be no way for me to get the items. I don't have any soap or deodorant, no shower shoes, no lotion, and the only pen that I have I'm borrowing from a neighbor, as it's about the only thing that fits under the door here. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like anytime you needed to talk to somebody in another cell or something like that, we would make these things out of cardboard and some other, we would tear apart our mattresses to get this nylon string, and we would have enough of it that we could take this we called them cars, and we would take it and just fling it over to somebody else's cell. And then there would be enough for them to put something on there, and then I could fish it back over. I mean, it's a whole process, but once you get it down, you get it down. I went out to the yard this morning, ready for the cold, wearing my long johns, my top and bottom, 2 pairs of socks, my orange jumpsuit, a t-shirt, a stocking cap, and a pair of socks that I had for gloves. The yard here is a concrete enclosure with 30-foot high walls on each side and a pull-up bar and a basketball hoop to look at, as somebody busted the basketball, and God knows there isn't money in the budget for that. So, after getting over the initial shock of 10 to 15 degrees or so, it wasn't as bad as long as you stayed moving and doing something. I got in a good workout and didn't even really break a sweat until I got back to my room. They bring you outside, but you couldn't see anything except for maybe some planes going overhead every once in a while. Every once in a while you get at just the right time in the day. You might have a little sunshine on the bottom there, but yeah, it was pretty stark in there. So far, overall, the food is slightly better here and seems to be a bit more of it. The COs do everything here, from serving meals to cleaning up the tier. There are no unit porter positions in this unit for inmates to do some of that work like I'm used to. What I am hearing is that since my charges are not violent, I may only be in this unit for a short time and then get moved to a general population unit where I would have a cellie. I hope that's the case because where I'm at now is pretty shitty as far as time goes. I appreciate you listening to me vent. Oh, and I'm only allowed one 15-minute phone call every 30 days. I'm going to try to call you as soon as I get on the list to use the phone. That's why I haven't called, in case you're wondering. Thanks for taking care of some of the address changes for me. Hopefully you got enough info to do it either by phone or on the internet. Today I read Psalm 37 in my daily reading, and the last verse was so great. The spacious, free life is from God. It's also protected and safe. God strengthened. We are delivered from evil. When we run to Him, He saves us. In our daily bread today, it said not only are we unable to understand all God is doing in the universe, but also unable to understand all that God is doing in me, and impossible to even try. When we ask, why this affliction? Why this anguish? The Father answers, hush, child. You wouldn't understand it if I explained it to you. Just trust me. That's where I feel I'm at right now, and I find peace in just letting go and trusting God to keep me safe every step of the way. I love you both, and I can't wait to speak to you. I will keep writing. All right, here we are on this last little insert of the letter. I don't think I could fit more than 5 pages in. I think I would have to throw another stamp on, and that wouldn't be very Dutch now, would it? But this last letter, I'll zoom in a little bit. I'm not going to read it word for word, but just the general tone of the letter is me being thankful. Thankful and grateful for my mom. Grateful for the money that she put on my books, grateful for how she took care of me, grateful for how she answered the phone when I called. Those are all things that we may not think about. We may not think, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a phone call, right? But when you're in solitary confinement and all of that is removed from you, when you have no possible option, when everything in you wants to reach out and just connect with somebody that cares. Nobody in solitary confinement cares. The COs are there to keep you alive. Maybe. The other inmates that are there, they're just doing their time. And so it's little things like the mail, little things like a 15-minute phone call every 30 days. Little things like the hope of maybe getting a CD player eventually. And I'll let you know when I got that, but it did take a little while. But really, this letter just went through, this was me saying thank you. And it was also saying, I recognize that you're sacrificing to send me something, and I want to let you know that I'm using it wisely. I'd never used any of my parents' money for gambling. I didn't use any of that money for drugs or anything like that. I respected the fact that they were making a sacrifice in order to try to make my life a little bit better there. Little things, though, for people that are in solitary confinement mean the world. Whether it's answering that phone call, whether it's a letter, just a card, just waking up with the understanding and the fact that I know somebody out there cares about me and I'm not forgotten. Because while you're there, it's real easy to slip into, am I forgotten? Is anybody out there remember me? Do I even exist right now? These are all things that I'll be talking about a little bit more. So the next video that I do, I'm going to be answering some questions, and I'm going to go into, how did I get to solitary confinement? Like, I know I was already in prison, but to get to solitary, that means you got to do something. So what did I do? And that's what's going to be coming up on the next video. I'll go into where I was at in prison, what exactly led me and what I did, and then also that whole transition from getting in trouble in prison and then realizing I had really messed up this time. So we'll see you next time on 84 Square Feet. It's been great. Again, you have any questions or anything like that, put them down in the comments or go right to the website, 84squarefeet.com. There's a contact form there. You can put your name, email, and any type of message or question or anything like that. I'd be happy to consider it. Have a great day.